people ask me all the time, well, how'd you get in touch with Rich Cooper? How'd you start working with him? How'd you guys start a business together? Because, people have been watching his channel a lot longer than me, man. Like that's, I've been around, I found his channel in like October of 2020. And there's guys that have been watching since he's been doing videos since 2015, 2016, 2014. So I'm not necessarily an OG to this channel, so to speak, if you will. But a lot of guys, if you'll hear them, especially guys that are in business now, especially entrepreneurs, especially guys that run their own firms, you can ask them how they got started. And a lot of them said, I had a mentor that showed me the ropes. I got linked up with this guy or that guy, and I busted my ass and I learned, and he showed me, and I wouldn't be where I am today without some sort of mentorship and in business, channel or business acumen, learning that from somebody else. How do I super chat? There should be a link in the chat there at the bottom where there's like a little money sign. Next to the comment, it says chat, there's a smiley face emoji, and then it says there's like a cash button for super chats. If you want to send in a super chat, should be right there. So the first thing is, if you want to find a mentor and you want to potentially get in with this person and potentially work with them, the first thing is you have to, before anything else, you got to figure out what niche or business or area of expertise you want to be in, right? Like, what are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? What's sort of the market where your skills are applicable? Or what's something you're willing to really learn and do well? Like maybe you're just like, hey man, I've been a freaking carpenter for the last 20 years, but now I am, really getting into like AI and things like that. And I really am curious about this, all that. And so, okay, cool. So maybe you've decided based on some research what niche you want to be in, what area of expertise you want to be in. Fine. Maybe it's real estate, maybe it's AI, maybe it's sales. Doesn't matter. Just pick one. From there, you find people that are influencers in the space. You find people that have done things. You find people that have reached the pinnacle or have done very well for themselves. Now, there's a caveat with this. Like there's going to be some people that are just untouchable, right? If you want to get into robotics and space exploration, you say, oh, well, I want Elon Musk to be my mentor. Probably not a realistic goal to shoot for. Probably not a realistic person. The chances of that happening are very slim, very low. I mean, it's something that you'd have to work for a very, very long time to get on that guy's radar. Bezos, same thing. Like you're talking about Fortune 100 billionaires, probably shooting too high. But the good thing about the internet is that there's a lot of guys out there that are doing well in certain spaces, and they've got social media presence. And if you're a guy that likes like the money Twitter or the self-improvement Twitter, there's guys out there that are pretty attainable and they're pretty reachable. In this case, it was Rich Cooper. So I found his content. I started watching it. Really resonated with me. I picked up the content very quickly. I picked up the concepts. I was able to kind of explain them back, and I was able to relate them to my own background and my own stories. And then kind of on my own, I just started helping other guys. Like I got on stereo, right? And I was having conversations with people. Well, let me just back up. I called in. I was like, cool, I want to call into this guy. I want to see advice he has for me. And if you guys remember that call in before the train wreck, it was him and Aaron Clary. And I called in, and what he said to me was join the community. And we still give that advice quite a bit. There's been guys where we've said it, and we don't just say it. We say it because we believe in it, man. Like we say it, obviously it's part of the way we make a living, but we really do believe in it. Like we believe in what we're doing. We believe in what we're selling. And you'll notice that most of those guys, if there's some sort of influencer, there's some sort of public figure, there's some sort of, CEO or content creator, they're most likely going to have some sort of community, some sort of course, some sort of mastermind on top of what they're doing, right? Like whether it's buying Grant Cardone's programs, whether it's becoming part of Casey Zander's thing, whether it's there's a lot of these guys that are in this space now that are running communities and they're running courses and programs and things like that. And I think that if any business is not overturning the stone of community and bringing people together, it's a big miss. I think that one of the keys to business in 2025 and beyond is finding a way to build community among your subscribers and among your customers and things like that. So the point being, okay, cool. So step number two, you know, I joined his community. And then from there, you figure out what's most important to them. Well, what do they want from their community members? Why do they have a community? Why is this good? Because the best endorsement for somebody's product, the best endorsement you can have for a product or service is a testimonial of somebody who maybe was unsure, tried it, loved it, and is now transformed their life and is now completely turned their entire situation around from where they were by taking your advice, by using your product, by utilizing your service. Testimonials are extremely, extremely powerful because it's easy. You know, if you look at a guy who's like, oh man, this guy's got like 2 million subscribers, he drives the McLaren, he's got all these, he's got the house in Miami and that kind of thing, and blah, blah, blah. That's not a regular dude. You know, he's not a regular guy, and he's selling things to regular guys, or he's trying to tell me that he was a regular guy at one, which we all were. We were all regular guys at one point. I'm still a regular guy. But people want to share experiences and they want to hear from people that are similar to them. People want to network and be around people that are like-minded and that look like them, because it's like, oh, well, if this guy can do it, you know, if his story is, hey, like I was divorced, I didn't know what I was going to do, I was out of shape, I didn't know how to talk to women, but then I started listening to the content and I joined the community and then I developed a brotherhood and now I'm having great relationships with women, I'm in fantastic shape, and I'm making more money than I ever did. Well, okay, that's relatable. You know, that's something that you can actually make happen. And so the idea of, you know, joining something and then getting value from it, or even really embodying the content, is what I did. And because when I joined, I wasn't making that much money, man. I was making less than 100K. It was in the middle of COVID, so I was still working. I don't think I was still working at half hours, half pay at that point. The industry that I was in was like sports and like sports ticketing technology, and so there were no sports being played. So there was no tickets, so we didn't need technology. And so all the customers were asking to put pause on their accounts. They didn't want to pay their monthly bills. They didn't want to pay their subscriptions. And, you know, my company was like, hey, we need to save money to weather this storm. So we're going to cut all of our salary workers from full-time to half-time and basically give them half pay. And this was a month, 2 months after I had just signed a lease for, you know, the most expensive place I'd ever lived, where my rent literally doubled. But anyway, the idea is that, you know, I wasn't this guy that came in that was this entrepreneur that had all of these lessons. Because this is a really common thing. Guys are like, oh, well, I don't want to join because I don't know if I have any value to add, or I don't know if I'm good at anything. But the idea is that it's not that you're good at something, everybody's good at something. Because there's a lot of people out there, man. Like there's a lot of guys that'll sell you this stuff and say everyone in the world is world class at something. And it's just bullshit. Like most people don't know jack. Most people suck. But what most people have is time. And if you're willing to exchange that time to learn a skill or to learn things or learn a philosophy, and then you can impart that on other people, that's what you should do. If you have no money, it means you probably have a lot of time. If you don't have a lot of time, it means you probably better have a lot of money. This idea, though, of not knowing what to do. So, okay, so I got in the community and I kind of was hanging around a little bit, and it was killing two birds with one stone. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into the dating game. I'm going to go date in New York. I'm going to be the dating app guy. And I'm just going to go out in the field, and I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to try stuff. I'm going to see what works. I'm going to see what doesn't. I'm going to report back. I'm going to do field reports. I'm going to show successes. And I started to do well. I started to show success. I started to spin plates. The things that we talked about in the channel that I had never done or had been able to do before started to work, because I was taking the philosophies and I was taking this, I hate to call it an ideology, but I was taking the lessons and I was taking the things that I learned, and then I applied them. And guess what? They worked. So now it becomes this positive feedback loop. I didn't know what to do. I received some lessons and some guidance. I went and applied it. It worked. And then I went back and shared. And that's what started to get me some momentum in this group. And, you know, guys started to ask me questions, and I started to impart on them wisdoms like, oh man, how'd you do that? Or how'd you do this? Or what did happen when she said that? Or how did you navigate through this? And then I got to a point where I realized, like, this is something that I'm pretty good at, man. This is something that I like to do. And a couple months into being in the community, that's when we launched our very first meetup or retreat. If you guys have been following around for the last year or so, we've been doing a ton of events. I mean, obviously the intro to the videos, our Algonquin trip last year, we're going to be doing another one in less than 3 months. I've got a retreat coming up next week in Breckenridge. We're doing one down here in Florida in March. I'm finalizing the Valor Immersion Project class number 2, which is our Navy SEALs experience out in July. There's just so many things we do now, and that none of that was a reality 3 years ago. We had never done really in-person meetups. This thing started as like Zooms. That's all we were really doing. And now it's with events, and it's sort of I remember, I was kind of the de facto head honcho at the meetup. I didn't plan it and come up with the idea first, but I kind of said, hey, I'd love to be a part of this. I'd love to help with the planning. We got the house together. We got guys together. And that's when we started doing our origin stories. Like the very first night, this was my brainchild. I was like, look, I want to get everybody together. I want us to talk about who we are, where we're from, where we've been, and where we're going. And now that's something we do at every single meetup. It's like a staple, because it really helps guys to get from above the surface to below the surface very quickly and have that touch point with each other. And that's when I was like, man, I would love to do this. I would love to do this forever. I would love to bring guys together. I enjoy helping men. I enjoy building and creating community. And it's super rewarding to take guys that have never met before and bring them together and see guys have awesome connections and just be able to build a relationship right away. Because it's so rare that you meet somebody and without knowing much about them, you already sort of know that they've been through the ringer or they've experienced life very similarly as you have. It takes usually a long time, at least maybe a couple meetings, to sort of deduce that with somebody. But the power of this community and power of this group is the fact that like everybody that's here's got a pretty similar story. Most guys have been through some shit, whether it's a breakup, whether it's divorce. Most guys got lazy. Most guys got fat and out of shape and need to get back. Most guys got a lot of their shit taken and need to learn how to kickstart their income and need that kick in the ass. And most guys focused so much on their girlfriend or their wife that they completely forewent or the foregone was any of their close male relationships. And the fact that they found this new content meant they couldn't even go back to those old male relationships because those guys are still plugged into the matrix. That's kind of like the poster child of who joins our community and the poster child of who comes to the content. Like you guys have a lot in common. Most of you guys share a lot of similar experiences. And that's what happened, man. Like, yeah, Tyrone, I don't know, dude. Like, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I mean, no big deal. If you're on mobile, I don't really know how to figure it out. But that's kind of how it is. Guys kind of find that. It's okay. So we started doing meetups and I started taking more of an initiative and I started putting things together. And not only was I learning through doing it, I was imparting that wisdom on other guys, and that gets noticed. It's like, okay, this kind of guy knows what he's talking about. Here's a guy that took my lessons and the things that I talk about, he applied them, they work, and now he's able to pass his wisdom on to others. And that's super valuable. If you're somebody that, has a community, it's really difficult to have a one-to-one relationship with every single person. It's almost impossible. It's really, really difficult. So what you want to try to build is a lot of like, instead of just having all vertical connections where all the members are just connected to you one-to-one, you want to build that horizontal relationship. These guys are now hanging out with each other and they're now chipping in and helping each other out and they're providing value. And that's when you really start to build things and see things really start to take off. And that gets noticed, right? So he noticed that. That's when he created, the generals. He had about 11 or 12 guys that were figuring things out, that were getting together, that were putting on events, that were providing value, that were taking the work and the load off of his plate. So he wasn't having to respond to every message, every single comment, every single question. And he noticed, yeah, these guys kind of know what they're talking about. And that frees me up to do other things. I can make more YouTube videos. I can reach a wider audience. I don't have to sort of be managing the day-to-day of my house. And did that on a long enough timeline. And you stay humble about it and you go there to help and you never throw your weight around. And it's like, nobody can tell me that I've ever got on this microphone or I've ever come on a Rich Cooper show or a call-in or done work with him where I've done anything other than humble myself and be and have humility. I've never said I'm this big swinging dick guy. I've never said I'm this crazy macho alpha and everybody should listen to me. I've never used my relationship or business partnership with Rich Cooper to flex on people and say I'm better than you because this guy takes me seriously or whatever. I've never done that, and I never will. But because guys come to me and they're like, well, how did you do it? I'm going to impart my wisdom. I'll tell you exactly how I did it. And you build that relationship over enough time, and especially with a guy like Rich and any of these guys, if I'm not even using Rich as an example, or any of these guys that have been through the ringer, that have done things in business, inevitably they are going to have guys that have stabbed them in the back. There's going to have guys that have screwed them over. There's going to be people that they thought were cool, they thought were friends, they thought they were business colleagues, they thought they were partners, and something got dirty. It's happened to me already a bunch of times growing up with friendships, a bunch of times college friends, and even recently, guys that I used to run the 10% with. Like, there's a reason those guys are no longer involved, and it's just me. And some involvement with Rich, but for the most part, I run that thing completely solo. I would say like 99% me. And so there's guys that wanted to start up a competing community. You got to cut those dudes out. You got to get them gone. Right. So that stuff happens. So on a long enough timeline, when you're putting out shots in the world, like, there's going to be people that are going to try to screw you. There's going to be kind of people that are going to try to use your name to get clout. I mean, I'm not going to say any names, but there's plenty of guys that got their subscribers or got popular on YouTube through their association with Rich Cooper. He already had subscribers on YouTube before all this red pill shit started happening. He had entrepreneurs in cars. Like, he is already doing stuff. If you guys go back long enough in the videos, like, he didn't just start off as a red pill channel. He sort of found that along the way.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.